Imagine meeting someone you haven't seen for more than 40 years. Someone who was once one of the most important people in your life. Someone you loved like family. And then they disappeared. No goodbye, no closure, nothing. Now imagine that one random day, while walking through a museum, you suddenly see that person standing in front of you. What would you do? Would you walk away? Would you hug them? Or would all those buried memories come flooding back at once? That's exactly what happens in Whistler, a deeply emotional novel by Ann Patchett. But this isn't a story about action, mystery, or adventure. It's a story about memory, about family, about the people who shape our lives without us even realizing it, and about what happens when the past finally catches up with us. Let's dive into the story. The main character of the novel is Daphne Fuller. Daphne is 53 years old. She works as a literature teacher. From the outside, her life seems stable and successful. She has a husband. She has a career. She has built a normal life for herself. But like many people, Daphne carries old memories she rarely talks about. Memories that have followed her for decades. Memories connected to one man, a man named Eddie Triplett. The unexpected encounter. One ordinary day, Daphne visits the Metropolitan Museum of Art with her husband, Jonathan. Everything feels normal, until she notices an older man watching her. At first, she thinks it is just coincidence, but something about him feels strangely familiar. Then realization hits. The man is Eddie Triplett, her former stepfather, a person she has not seen for decades. Suddenly, time seems to stop. All those years disappear in an instant, and memories she thought were long forgotten begin returning. For both of them. Who was Eddie? To understand why this moment matters so much, we need to go back in time. Many years earlier, Daphne was only a young girl. Her family life was complicated. Like many children, she was trying to understand the confusing world of adults. Then Eddie entered her life. When Eddie married Daphne's mother, he officially became her stepfather. But the relationship quickly became much more meaningful than a simple legal title. Eddie genuinely cared about Daphne. He listened to her. He paid attention to her. He treated her like she mattered. For a young girl searching for stability, that meant everything. A special bond. As time passed, the connection between Daphne and Eddie grew stronger. They developed a relationship built on trust, something that wasn't always present elsewhere in her life. Eddie became someone she could rely on, someone who understood her, someone who made her feel safe. Many children remember the people who bought them gifts, but what Daphne remembered was something deeper. She remembered being seen, being heard, being valued. And those feelings can stay with a person forever. The complexity of family. One of the biggest themes in the novel is the complicated nature of family. Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes the people who influence us the most are not biologically related to us at all. Eddie wasn't Daphne's father, yet his presence affected her life in profound ways. The novel constantly asks an important question. What truly makes someone family? Shared DNA or shared love? Patchett explores this idea beautifully throughout the story. when things fall apart. Unfortunately, life rarely stays simple. Relationships become complicated. Adults make mistakes. Circumstances change. And eventually, the marriage between Eddie and Daphne's mother begins to fall apart. The family structure that once felt stable starts cracking. Tension grows. Misunderstandings appear. And before long, the relationship reaches a breaking point. For Daphne, this period is heartbreaking. Because when adults separate, children often lose relationships too. Not because they want to, but because they have no control over what happens. The painful separation. Eventually, Eddie leaves Daphne's life. The separation is devastating. Not just because a marriage ended, but because an important emotional connection disappears. One day, Eddie is there. Then suddenly, he isn't. Years pass. Then decades. Life moves forward. Daphne grows older. She builds a career. She gets married. She creates an entirely new life. But some part of her never fully forgets Eddie. The power of memory. One of the most fascinating aspects of the novel is its exploration of memory. As adults, we often believe our memories are accurate. We think we remember exactly what happened. But do we really? The novel suggests something interesting. Memory isn't a recording. It's a reconstruction. Every time we remember something, we interpret it again. We reshape it. We add meaning to it. And over decades, those memories can change. Daphne begins questioning her own understanding of the past. What really happened? Did she remember things correctly? Or had time altered her perspective? Returning to the present. Back in the museum, Daphne and Eddie now face each other as older adults. The little girl is gone. The younger stepfather is gone. Both have aged. Both have lived entire lives apart. And yet the emotional connection remains. That is what surprises Daphne the most. The years may have passed, but the feelings have not completely disappeared. Some relationships leave permanent marks on us, no matter how much time passes. Eddie's perspective. The story doesn't focus only on Daphne. It also explores Eddie's side of the experience. Eddie carries his own memories, his own regrets, his own unanswered questions. For him, seeing Daphne again is equally emotional. He remembers the young girl who became an important part of his life. He remembers the happiness, the difficulties, the mistakes, and the loss. This shared history creates the emotional heart of the novel. Regret and time. As people get older, they often begin thinking differently about the past. Moments that once seemed small suddenly feel important. Old decisions gain new meaning, and regrets become impossible to ignore. Both Daphne and Eddie experience this. They are forced to confront questions they have avoided for years. What if things had happened differently? What if they had stayed in contact? What if certain mistakes had never occurred? The novel understands a simple truth. Some questions never completely leave us. Why this story feels so real? One reason Whistler resonates with readers is because it feels incredibly realistic. There are no dramatic villains, no huge conspiracies, No world-ending stakes. Instead, the story focuses on ordinary human emotions. Love, loss, memory, forgiveness, connection. These are experiences almost everyone understands. That's why the story feels powerful. It reflects real life. The emotional climax. As Daphne and Eddie spend more time confronting their shared history, the emotional tension builds. Years of silence must finally be addressed. Feelings that remained buried for decades come to the surface. The novel doesn't rely on shocking twists. Instead, its power comes from emotional honesty. Readers become invested because they want to know whether these two people can finally find peace. Can they understand each other? Can they move beyond the past? Can they heal old wounds? The ending explained. By the end of the novel, the focus is not on solving a mystery. The focus is on understanding. Daphne gains a deeper perspective on her childhood. She begins to see events with greater maturity. She recognizes how much Eddie truly meant to her life. Eddie also finds an opportunity to reconnect with someone he cared about deeply. Their reunion does not magically erase the past. It doesn't undo decades of separation. But it creates something equally important: closure, understanding, and a chance for reconciliation. The ending reminds readers that while we cannot change the past, we can change how we understand it. Themes of the novel. The novel explores several powerful themes. Family. Family is not always defined by blood. Sometimes love creates stronger bonds than biology. Memory. Our memories shape who we are, but memories are often imperfect. Forgiveness. Healing becomes possible when people are willing to revisit the past honestly. Second chances. Life occasionally gives us unexpected opportunities to reconnect with people we thought were gone forever. Final thoughts. Whistler is not a fast-paced thriller. It is not an action-packed adventure. Instead, it is a quiet, emotional, deeply human story. A story about the people who leave lasting impressions on our lives. A story about the connections that survive the passage of time. And a story about how understanding the past can help us move forward. Because sometimes the people we haven't seen for 40 years are still carrying a piece of our story. And sometimes we are carrying a piece of theirs. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this book review and ending explained, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know which book you want covered next.